Greetings and welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. I'm Phyllis Hollis, your host. As an extension of my Instagram page, Cerebral Women, this podcast offers insights into the visual art world. I interview artists, mainly artists of color and female artists who will freely articulate what inspires their creativity. In addition, you'll hear interesting perspectives from dedicated art professionals who work with artists and the art institutions that feature them. I'm confident that collectively, these individuals will indeed stimulate your mind as they do our eyes. Please know these interviews are conducted in my Manhattan apartment, so please forgive the background sounds of city life. Welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. This episode features Emanuel Aguilar. He is a gallerist and independent curator living and working in Chicago. In 2015, he founded PATRON, a contemporary art gallery with a focus on emerging artists and conceptual practice. Previously, he was a director at Kavi Gupta Gallery in Chicago and Berlin, and a founder of the arts and culture magazine Jettison Quarterly. Emanuel serves on the board of Chicago Arts Coalition and is a member of the Society for Contemporary Art at the Art Institute of Chicago. Enjoy this episode featuring Emanuel Aguilar as we discuss his passion to advocate for underrepresented artists. Emanuel, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
I am looking forward to our conversation for a number of different reasons. So let's start with, when did you recognize your interest in the visual arts?
Thank you for having me, Phyllis. I'm really excited to be in conversation.
Thank you.
I think that was very early on. I was exposed to art and creative practices very early in my life. My grandparents collected art. My mother was a singer. There was a lot of creative sort of energies around me. And so I was interested in visual arts very early on, and I actually wanted to be an artist. And through my teenage years and the beginning of undergrad, that was the trajectory that I was interested in and that I was pursuing. So it was very early. There is this quote that I once came across by Madonna where they asked her early in her career what sort of made her pursue a career as a singer, as a performer. And she said, I always knew that I wanted to be into creative art. I wasn't sure which field or where I would land, but I always knew that eventually I would fall within creative arts. And I just knew that I was going to be part of something in the realm of creative human sort of expression.
Did you ever create?
I did. Yeah. I mean, I started making art very young and through high school. And the first sort of couple years of undergrad, I was in studio art. And so I would make art. You know, I look back now and as a gallerist, and I was like, well, I actually feel like I was actually pretty good. I was tapping into a lot of things that now I sort of in retrospect, they were interesting, but I sort of maybe through the middle of undergrad realized that though I was interested in having a voice and sort of sharing my own story through my own creation of work, what really fueled me, what really inspired me and made me excited was to sort of work with various voices and to sort of collaborate with the voices of many. And so in someone that helped artists and was able to sort of work with different creatives to make things realize, it just felt a little bit more natural as I was sort of coming into my own at that time.
So you're probably one of few gallerists who actually created art. So do the artists you work with, do they know that you were a creative at one point?
Some of them. My co-owner of the gallery, Julia, was also a studio artist in undergrad. And I think that it does give us a very different approach to doing the job the way we do it. We're very interested in studio time and talking ideas and sort of navigating the process of creation, the process of sort of manifesting an idea into reality. And I think a lot of that comes from having had that background of being in the studio and making things ourselves. I share it with some of the artists. I don't know how many of them, but it does come up because it is part of the sort of foundation, I feel like, of what drives me to do the things that I do the way.
And what type of relationships do you prefer to have with artists?
Very intimate ones in terms of being able to be a collaborator with them, not just as a a person that's in the world sort of selling their work, but I want to be an advocate for them as creators and voices of our times in sort of a myriad of ways. I was just saying, I like being in the studio. I like hearing ideas. I like texting back and forth about things and figuring things out together, and to be an outlet of support for them in that way. I've always been driven by the creative process rather than the goal-oriented sort of like deal of what gallerists, I feel like, are sort of thought of to do. Like I of course, I'm good at placing works and it's part of it, and there is sort of a drive to that. But I love the stuff that leads to an exhibition or to a new body of work or to thinking creatively and constructively through a problem. So I love having that kind of relationship with the artist. I want them to be able to trust in me to be not only a advocate and a sort of preacher for their practice out in the world, but also a bouncing board and a trusted sort of ear and mind in what they're producing, and what they're doing.
Do you have a methodology behind the choices, the curatorial choices, the artists you choose?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it starts with, I think that first, of course, I have to like the work. Sort of like it? Well, I mean, I'm sort of was more like the steps, I guess. Like the work start be the beginning. Right. But I think that because I like a lot of work in the world, and it doesn't mean that artist is someone that's right for me to work with or for them to work with me, or that I'm the right gallery for them. It really has to be a sort of layered sort of thing, because to me, liking the work, and it has to haunt me, right? I have to sort of think about it and not stop thinking about it, and for it to sort of come back to me in moments past sort of first encountering it. And so liking the work is first, and then meeting the person. And I have to know that this artist, this person is able to, or is able to work at the level that I want to work at, and that I can do something for them as well. We have to connect. I have to like the person, and we have to be able to collaborate, and we have to be able to be open about that collaboration and everything that goes into it. Doing the job the way that I prefer, which is an intimate, like hands-on approach. There has to be a sort of click. There has to be a sort of connection between me and the artist and the team. So liking the work and sort of being haunted by it, growing to love it is first. And then comes the person, right? And then the realities of whether this is someone that we can do something for, someone that I can realistically do the job for effectively, productively, and passionately, and vice versa, whether they like us and like me, and so on. Similar to my podcast, I like the work first. Yeah. How do you prefer to work with collectors? I see collectors as, I guess the more relationships that I have with collectors as individuals that I know that I can see passion transferred and reciprocated back to me within their eyes, their energy. I like working with collectors that are passionate about art and artists' ideas being transported by the power of art, being able to take a journey with me down the paths of whatever it is that the work is asking us to do and respond and think and explore. And I feel like it's always a rarity in the world. We meet so many people, but we can't connect with few. But there is something beautiful about finding those kindred sort of spirits in the people that you do business with that are also seeing the world and interested in sort of discovering things in the world the way that you are. And so with collectors, we work with a sort of a spectrum of different people. I've been able to find some really beautiful friendships and connections sort of based on a shared passion. Are there trends in your industry that, I guess there's two answers to this question. Are there trends in the industry that you find promising, and then are there those that you find disturbing? I think that the industry has gone through a lot of transformation since I sort of started in it. I feel like the last few years, there's been a lot of soul searching, and I think it's a layer thing. I'm probably in the minority here, but there's this sort of correction that's going on in the art market and the art world and the industry right now, where the market seems slower and more contemplative, and the fact that a lot of the sort of hype and buzz that was going on over the last few years is sort of slowing down, and there's like sort of like a sobering going on. I actually think that's a good thing. And it's an amazing thing, and a thing that needs to happen. Because I think that there was a lot of misguided sort of energy and push towards things that were very immediate and very, maybe, what's the word, shallow type of buzz that was going on. And I guess I've never really been a fan of buzz. I've always looked for things that are much more sort of substantial and that promise a longevity, that sort of give hope for longevity, and that I see sort of developing over time organically, as opposed to like instant reward. And I feel like with the internet and with just the sort of global things that we've gone through over the last few years, there's been this sort of desire for instant gratification from art, when I think art at its strongest, at its most powerful, is something that unravels with time, something that doesn't reward you instantly, but it actually asks you to return, to process, to think, contemplate. And so I actually think that what's going on right now in the industry is actually very healthy, very needed, and it's actually very hopeful. I think that's something that I really feel and think about a lot recently.
Thank you for sharing that perspective.
Of course.
So back in the day, let's focus on art that you like.
Okay.
What type of art appealed to you, and what period would you say the art is from? As a younger person, what really got your brain moving?
I feel like we all have very sort of early introductions to art and things that we sort of first, of course, like as a teenager, I was drawn to surrealism, and I was drawn to like Salvador Dali and Frida Kahlo. And like these were sort of like the early seeds of art. But I think that when I discovered conceptual art and minimalism in my late teen years, it's when my mind sort of exploded with excitement. And I remember finding and learning about the work of Felix Gonzalez Torres, and I was never the same. I was transported into this place where art could impact and change and sort of really make a difference in how it is that we view the world and view our own emotions and sort of approaches to our life and to what's meaningful. And his work and sort of looking at other sort of conceptual minimalists like Ronnie Horn, and it really changed everything for me. And it's something that sort of sustained with the way that I look for art now and the kind of practices that I'm drawn to. I'm definitely drawn to artists that are working in a conceptual way and whose works are exploring a layer of different sort of narratives that explore an invitation to look at the world different through material, through gesture, through poetry. So I would say that's definitely when the seeds were planted for the type of work that I not only like championing, but that I sort of am drawn to myself passionately as an art viewer.
On that note, what do you feel is the purpose of art?
I think that to me, the purpose is sort of more on a function level, right? I think that human beings have a desire to remind the world individually that they exist, that they think, that they feel. And I feel like art, both from a creator standpoint and a viewer and appreciator, essentially is reminders of those very universal, beautiful things, which is, hey, I exist. I am here. I think of that as sort of being not the purpose, but the sort of drive for creation. And I think about a quote that I really love by the poet Sylvia Plath. It reads something like, remember, this is now, and now, and now, and now. And I want to become acutely aware of all that I've taken for granted. And to me, it's like art places us back into the present, into what we're experiencing. And so I think the purpose of art is not necessarily like it has a sort of function beyond allowing us to remind ourselves and remind others we exist. That's on both ends and all the ways that it's approached.
So share with us, what is it you're excited about right now?
Well, I'm always excited with doing gallery work. There's always like a new project, right? There's always something coming. And to me, that's sort of maybe the drug of being a gallerist, like, right? Like this it's constant change and constant things to be excited about and to work towards. Right now, working towards an exhibition at the gallery by a Mexican artist, Noé Martinez, that lives in Mexico City, whose practice is dedicated to preserving the culture and history and story of his ancestors, who were an indigenous people on the eastern coast of Mexico known as the Huastecos, whom were predominantly lost to slavery. And there's few individuals left that are connected to the people that remember the stories and the culture and are able to sort of preserve it through their own families to this day. And so he's dedicated his entire practice to preserving the memory and the culture of his people, which I find quite a beautiful and powerful thing. Just a sort of very beautifully poetic and passionate connection to the past through our existence in the present. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm very excited to that show. It opens this summer here at the gallery.
Nice. And do you feel Hispanic, Latinx, Black art, do you feel any category of art can be defined?
I don't know if it can be defined. I feel like that's limiting, right? I think that it's like Cornel West quote that like marginalization is a double-edged sword. I think in one side, I think it's empowering, right? To sort of focus on the details of our identity and our individuality, but also then it's limiting that to include ourselves within the larger spectrum of human creation and human sort of experience. So I think it's part of it. Our identities are part of it, of what we do and what we create, but also we belong to the bigger picture as well. We belong to the world.
Do you work with several Mexican artists?
I do. Yes. For me, it's important, but it's also, it's a reality. I mean, I work with, I would say not as many as I like, but that's always sort of building and changing. I believe there's 4 artists that have Mexican lineage and identify as Mexican. One we have up right now, his name is Harold Mendez. He's Mexican and Colombian. And then the following will be Noé Martinez. The following exhibition will be by a Mexican artist. And also Carolyn Kent is part Mexican, as well as Diana Fried, who is currently in Oaxaca. Yeah, it's something important for me. I mean, there isn't many Mexican gallerists to begin with within the country. And so to me, it's an important place to hold and to build on. It's something I want to continue to grow and be someone that represents something that relates back to my culture, my background. And it is important to me.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a beautiful culture. How do you feel the Black Lives Matter movement impacted the way people look at or consider the work by underrepresented artists?
I think it's part of larger sort of conversations and moments within our more recent history and events that are helping things that should be at the forefront. And I think that the more these things sort of come to light and the more that things are discussed and things are being put at the forefront of public discourse, the more that we can begin to sort of have an engagement with the narrative and the stories and the voices of underrepresented people. Like, I think it's important. And I think that it's one of many things that are happening. And it's part of the beautiful chaos of the world, right? Where things are transforming and change and evolution is uncomfortable because things need to be shaken up. But it is an important part of sort of growth and sort of moving forward. So I think that it was great that there's moments and events, sort of movements that are helping really draw attention to conversations that need to be had.
I've enjoyed this conversation, and this is the last question, which I want you to sort of elaborate on what you just said. And it is, as a gallery owner, how do you want to impact the art world? What do you feel is your role?
I think that's a question that I ask myself almost every day. And,
well, thank you.
And I think that the answers are always compounding and from various places. I like to be someone that helps facilitate the voices of the things that don't have words, right? I like to be able to be a champion of those with the voices that say the things that we don't know how to express, that we don't know how to articulate in words. And I feel like that's what art also does. It speaks for the invisible things. It speaks for the powerful forces that move our world and us as human beings. And so I like to always sort of focus on being someone that is helping make that happen. Of course, people at the end are part of that. And so I'd like to continue, and I would hope in my career I've been able to impact individuals, whether they're collectors, curators, artists, art enthusiasts, that I've been able to be someone that was a supporter of their passions, a supporter of their interests, and that they felt like I helped them be inspired by art, that I was there to be able to facilitate the engagement with art. So if I'm not doing that, if I'm not being someone that is helping art change people's lives and impact people's lives and sort of speak to their passions, then what am I doing? I don't find that I'm content with simply being someone that sells objects and things. I want to do more than that. Being a gallerist to me is more than. So I definitely would always love to sort of strive to maintain that engagement with art and people overall.
Well, thank you for the work you do. I appreciate it very much. I'm sure the artists do also.
Thank you, Phyllis. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. For additional content, please visit cerebralwomen.com and be sure to follow Cerebral Women on Instagram.